Every hated child learns to smile like someone hiding a crime. She doesn't know yet what she did wrong, but she knows something about her is wrong. She knows it by the silence that comes after crying, by the gaze that turns away, by the hand that doesn't reach out. And this wordless knowing settles into the body like a truth that existed before language. Before learning to say, she already learned, I don't deserve. Do you know this child? Maybe you see her in the mirror. Maybe she lives inside you, curled up in a corner of your chest, waiting for someone to finally say, you can stop apologizing for existing, but no one said it. And so she grew up. She grew up carrying a guilt that wasn't hers. She grew up believing that love is something you earn, never something you receive. Let's talk about this child. About what happens when the world's first look is a look of rejection. About what forms in the core of someone who learns, too early, that their presence is a burden. And let's also talk about what this child becomes, because she doesn't disappear, she just learns to hide better. The first wound is always the deepest. John Bowlby, British psychoanalyst, spent decades studying something that seems obvious, but which science took too long to take seriously. The child needs attachment, not as a luxury, as survival. He called this attachment theory, and what he discovered was devastating in its simplicity. Children who don't receive consistent affection, who don't have an emotional safe harbor, develop a kind of fear that never completely goes away. It's a nameless fear, a fear of being and of not being enough to deserve to be here. The hated child isn't necessarily beaten. Sometimes she's just ignored. Sometimes the hatred comes disguised as indifference, as exhaustion, as not now, as you again. And the child learns. She learns that her feelings are a burden, that her joy bothers people, that her crying is manipulation. She learns not to ask, not to cry, not to exist too loudly. Donald Winnicott, another fundamental psychoanalyst, spoke about the good enough mother. Not the perfect mother, just the one who's present enough, who looks, who responds, who says, even without words, I see you, you matter. But what happens when that look doesn't come? The child creates a false self. She buries who she really is and constructs an acceptable version. A version that smiles at the right time, that doesn't complain, that adapts, that tries, desperately, to be lovable enough to finally be loved, except that love never comes, because what she offers isn't her. It's a performance. And deep down, she knows this. I remember doing things just to please my mother, to not irritate my father, to impress friends at school. Every action was calculated, every word was measured, every smile was strategic. I wasn't living, I was performing constantly. And the exhausting part, I didn't even realize I was doing it. It became so automatic, so ingrained, that I forgot there was another way to exist. I forgot that you could just be without justification, without performance, without constantly earning your place. The passage from childhood to adolescence is something so cruel. It's when you start to notice, really notice. You notice that other kids don't seem to work this hard just to be accepted. You notice that they can mess up and still be loved. You notice that they have families who show up, who care, who see them, and you start to wonder, what's wrong with me? I remember how many times I went home wanting to disappear, to cry, feeling so small inside a matchbox. That's exactly what it felt like. Like I was this tiny thing, compressed, unable to expand, unable to breathe, unable to take up the space I needed. I would sit in my room and just shrink, trying to make myself smaller, quieter, less. Because maybe if I took up less space, I would bother people less. Maybe if I needed less, I would finally be enough. But it never worked that way. Freud would say this child is dealing with something very specific, the internalization of a hostile superego. In simple terms, she swallows the voice that rejects her, transforms external hatred into internal hatred, and spends her entire life punishing herself for crimes she never committed. It's as if she carries inside herself an invisible judge, always ready to condemn her, always saying, "You're not good enough. You don't deserve to be happy. You are the problem." And the tragedy is that the more she tries to prove otherwise, the more this belief is confirmed, because the hated child becomes the adult who seeks validation in impossible places, who chooses people who reject her, who reconstructs without realizing it. The original scene of the wound. She doesn't do this because she's stupid. She does it because it's what she knows. Because, in some distorted way, the pain is familiar. And the familiar, even when toxic, brings a strange sense of control. At least I know what to expect. At least I recognize this. And even now, even today, I carry so much anxiety as a reflection of all that. I see friends succeeding, cousins buying houses, relatives with stable careers and orderly lives, and something inside me twists, not because I'm jealous, but because I wonder, why not me? What did they have that I didn't? What opportunities? What foundation? What sense of worthiness that allowed them to pursue things without this constant voice saying, "You'll fail anyway, why try?" I had the misfortune of not having opportunities, not because they weren't physically there, but because I was too busy trying to please, too busy not being myself, too busy surviving to actually live. Zero self-esteem, zero belief that I could want things, that I could reach for things, that I deserved things. And now, years later, I'm catching up, learning things I should have learned as a child, building foundations that should have been built decades ago. And it's hard, it's so hard, because everyone else seems so far ahead. And I'm still here, trying to figure out the basics, trying to figure out who I even am when I'm not performing. Nietzsche wrote something brutal. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. But what if you never had a why? What if the first message you received about your existence was, "You shouldn't be here"? The hated child grows up without a clear why. She exists, but doesn't know what for. She feels that her presence is, in itself, a mistake, an accident, a cosmic inconvenience. And then she spends her life trying to justify her existence, trying to be useful, trying to be perfect, trying, finally, to earn the right to take up space. Except that right isn't earned. It already existed, always did. But no one told her that. If you've made it this far, maybe it's because something in this story resonates with you. Maybe you were also that child, or maybe you know someone who was. And if you want my heart to beat a little calmer, and maybe make the child inside me smile a little, subscribe to the channel. From the bottom of my heart, I promise to keep telling stories that heal, or that, at least, try to. Kierkegaard spoke about despair, not the loud despair that screams and calls attention, but the silent one, the one that lives inside someone who smiles, who functions, who seems fine, but who deep down can't feel real. He called this the despair of not wanting to be oneself. And that's exactly what the hated child carries. She doesn't want to be who she is, because who she is was never good enough. So she tries to be someone else, anyone else. As long as it's not herself. But the cruel irony is that the more she runs from herself, the emptier she becomes. Because no one can love a mask. And the only thing she offers the world is a well-rehearsed mask. There's a metaphor I really like. The hated child is like someone who learns to love the mirror that doesn't recognize her. She looks and doesn't see herself, but she insists. Because if she insists enough, if she smiles right, if she does everything correctly, maybe one day the reflection will change. Maybe she'll finally be worthy of being seen, except the mirror doesn't change. Because the problem was never her. The problem was the gaze that should have been there and wasn't. Sartre said we're condemned to be free, that we don't choose to be born, but we're entirely responsible for who we become. But how can you be free if no one ever taught you that you can choose? The hated child doesn't feel free. She feels trapped. Trapped by guilt, trapped by the need to please, trapped by the fantasy that if she changes enough, she'll finally be accepted. And so she lives, not living, just surviving, just trying not to be rejected again. But surviving isn't living. And there comes a moment when the body gets tired, the soul gets tired, and something inside her starts to scream, "I can't pretend anymore." It's at this point that many people enter therapy or have an existential crisis, or simply fall apart. And it's scary, because for the first time that child buried deep inside begins to appear, and she's not pretty, she's not polite, she's furious, she's sad, she's exhausted, she wants to scream, "Why didn't anyone love me?" And there's no easy answer to that, because sometimes the people who should have loved simply couldn't. Not because you didn't deserve it, but because they themselves were broken. Because they were also hated children. Because the wound is transmitted from generation to generation, like a cursed inheritance. And understanding this doesn't heal, but it opens a door. Because the truth is that the hated child never disappears. She just ages. She just learns new survival tricks. But what if instead of surviving she could finally live? What if instead of hiding she could be seen? The hated child becomes a strange adult. She succeeds sometimes. She functions. She pays the bills, goes to work, even smiles in photos. But inside there's an emptiness that no achievement fills, no compliment soothes, no relationship heals, because the problem isn't in the present, it's in the past. It's in that first rejection, in that first abandonment, in that first silence where there should have been love. And the adult carries this like someone carrying a stone, heavy, invisible, always there. There's a concept in psychology called core schema. It's like software running in the background of your mind, a belief so old, so rooted, that you don't even notice it's there. But it commands everything. For the hated child, the schema is simple. I'm not worthy of love. And everything in her life will confirm this, not because it's true, but because she looks for proof. She interprets every rejection as confirmation, every criticism as evidence, every silence as a sentence. She doesn't see the times she was loved, only the times she wasn't, because the brain seeks patterns, and the pattern she learned was, "You're not enough," and this pattern haunts you in the strangest ways. You see your cousin getting married, your friend buying their first house, your old classmate posting about their promotion, and you're happy for them. You really are. But there's also this ache. This question that won't leave you alone. Why did they get to have a normal life and I didn't? Why did they get parents who believed in them? Why did they get to grow up with confidence? Why were they allowed to fail without it confirming that they were fundamentally broken? I spent so much time just trying not to irritate anyone, trying to read the room, trying to anticipate what people needed so I could give it to them before they got angry. And while I was doing that, everyone else was living. They were making mistakes, taking risks, building lives, and I was stuck, frozen. afraid to move because any movement might be the wrong one. Carl Rogers, humanistic psychologist, spoke about something revolutionary: unconditional acceptance. The idea that you can be loved not for what you do, not for what you achieve, not for how useful you are, but simply for existing. For the hated child, this is impossible to believe, because everything in her life was conditional: love for good behavior, attention for performance, affection for obedience. And so she grows up thinking she needs to deserve every crumb of affection, that she needs to be perfect, that she needs to sacrifice herself, that she needs to disappear. But Rogers said, you don't need to be different. You just need to be seen as you are, except how can you be seen if you don't even know who you are? The hated child often becomes invisible. She speaks softly. She apologizes for everything. She takes up as little space as possible because she learned that her presence bothers people, or she does the opposite. She becomes grandiose, loud, perfect, because if she shines bright enough, no one will see the wound. No one will notice that inside she's still that small child begging, please, see me. Please, love me. Both paths are painful because both are lies. And the truth, the frightening truth, is that you'll never be loved for what you pretend to be. You can only be loved for what you really are. But to be who you really are, you first need to discover who you are. And that, after a lifetime of hiding, is terrifying. I think about all those years I lost, not because I was lazy, not because I didn't try, but because I was so busy being what everyone else needed that I never figured out what I needed. I never developed my own interests because I was too focused on impressing my friends at school. I never pursued my own dreams because I was too afraid of disappointing my parents. I never built a solid foundation because I was standing on quicksand, constantly shifting to accommodate everyone else. And now I look at people my age with careers, with families, with stability, and I feel like I'm decades behind, like I missed the train, like everyone else got the manual on how to be a functioning human, and I was absent that day. There's a line from Rumi, the Persian poet, that breaks my heart every time I read it. The wound is the place where the light enters. And I believe that, but I also know that before the light enters, you need to look at the wound, and looking hurts. It hurts to admit you were rejected. It hurts to feel the anger you've kept your whole life. It hurts to realize you spent years trying to please people who were never going to love you the way you needed. It hurts to see how much time you lost. How many opportunities passed you by while you were frozen in fear? It hurts a lot, but it's the only way. Because you don't heal what you don't feel. You don't liberate what you don't name. You don't integrate what you keep burying. The hated child needs to make peace with anger, and this is complicated, because she was taught that anger is bad, that complaining is ingratitude, that feeling is weakness. So she swallowed it, swallowed years of humiliation, of loneliness, of rejection, and transformed all of it into depression, into anxiety, into self-sabotage. But the anger is there, waiting, and when it finally rises to the surface, it's like a volcano. It's disproportionate, it's scary. It's fair, because that child had the right to be loved, and she wasn't. And that's unfair, and she can finally feel the injustice of it. Not to blame someone forever, not to live as a victim, but to acknowledge what happened to me shouldn't have happened, and I have the right to be angry about it. The anxiety I carry now is a direct line to that child who walked on eggshells, who monitored every adult's mood, who learned to disappear at the first sign of tension. Even now, when I'm in a room with people, I'm scanning, constantly scanning. Are they annoyed? Did I say something wrong? Should I leave? Should I apologize? Should I make myself smaller? It's exhausting. And the worst part is knowing that most people don't live like this. Most people enter a room and just exist. They don't perform a complex calculation of social dynamics before deciding whether they're allowed to speak. They just speak. They just are. And I'm still learning how to do that. Still learning that I don't need permission to exist. Self-compassion is a strange word. Compassion, we understand. It's what you feel for someone who suffers. It's wanting to ease another's pain. But self-compassion, that seems like selfishness. It seems like weakness. It seems wrong. Especially for someone who grew up thinking they don't deserve kindness. But Kristin Neff, a researcher who studied the subject for decades, discovered something incredible. Self-compassion isn't giving yourself a free pass. It's not pretending everything's okay. It's not avoiding responsibility. It's treating yourself the way you would treat someone you love. It's saying to the child inside you, I know it was hard. I know you did the best you could. And I'm not going to abandon you again, because the hated child was abandoned many times by other people and, worse, by herself. She abandoned herself when she forced herself to be someone else, when she ignored her needs, when she said, I'm fine, when nothing was fine. And now, in the present, she can do differently. She can finally be the mother, the father, the friend she never had. There's a question that changes everything. How do you treat the child who still lives inside you? Do you ignore her? Do you criticize her? Do you blame her for not having overcome everything yet? Or do you embrace her? Do you listen to her? Do you say, I understand, and I won't leave you alone, because that child never left. She's there, in every exaggerated reaction, in every irrational fear, in every need for approval. She's there, waiting. And maybe, just maybe, the work of a lifetime is learning to care for her. Rewriting the story doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. It means choosing what you do with what happened. Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, said something I've never forgotten. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. The hated child didn't choose rejection, but the adult can choose the response, can choose not to repeat the pattern, not to pass the wound forward, not to punish herself for the rest of her life, can choose, finally, to be free, not free from pain. Pain is part of it, but free from the prison of thinking that pain defines you. There are people who spend their entire lives waiting for an apology, from parents, from family, from the world, and it never comes, and it's devastating. Because it seems that without that apology, you can't move forward, you can't close the cycle, you remain stuck, waiting for justice. But the truth is that justice often won't arrive, and you have two options. Either you stay stuck in the past, waiting for something that may never come, or you free yourself, not for them, for you. You say, I don't need your regret to give myself permission to live. I don't need your validation to know I deserve love. I don't need anything from you, and then finally you let go. The hated child is afraid of being happy. It sounds strange, but it makes sense, because happiness seems dangerous. It seems temporary. It seems like a trap, because every time she was happy in the past, something bad happened. Happiness was taken from her. It was used against her. It was transformed into disappointment. So she learns. It's safer not to expect anything. It's safer not to want. It's safer not to allow herself. But that's not life. It's just a slow way of dying. And there comes a moment when she needs to risk it, needs to believe that maybe this time happiness won't be snatched away, that maybe she can have something good and deserve it. It's terrifying, but it's the only way. I won't tell you that you'll heal completely, because some wounds never close entirely. They scar, they hurt less, but they remain, and that's okay. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be healed to deserve love, to deserve peace, to deserve to live. You can be broken and still be whole. You can have scars and still be beautiful. You can carry pain and still choose joy. Because you're not just the hated child, you're also everything you became despite that. You're the strength that brought you here. You're the resilience you didn't even know you had. And that deserves to be seen. And I want to remind you of something. Sometimes you spend so much time putting yourself down that you forget how sweet you are, how sensitive, how gentle, how you get emotional when you see a little puppy on the street, how stories, sad or happy, touch your heart so deeply. You forget that you're the person who feels things intensely, who cares, who loves with everything you have. You need to remember that you're wonderful, that the very things you think make you weak are actually what make you human, what make you real, what make you capable of extraordinary love. And before we end, I need to say something important. Don't speak badly about my friend. Don't speak badly about yourself. Be kind to you, because you deserve kindness. You always did. I love you, I really do. And if this story touched something in you, if you felt seen, if you felt a little less alone, I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment telling me how you're feeling. Let's build something beautiful here, together, because you're not alone. You never were, and this story, it's just beginning.